Hi, welcome to Midwest Magic Cleaning. My name is Banana Fana Fofana, and today I'm going to be doing something for myself. So I just got the house to myself for 3.5 days, and whenever I sit here by my lonesome, I get bored really quick, which means that I start looking around the house and I start thinking, my dear God, how did it get this way? I have to get it back to some way that makes sense in my brain, face, head. But before we get into all that, I wanted to talk about something semi-serious for just a few. Because about 3 years ago, I asked myself a question that pretty much changed my life. At the very least, it changed the way I saw life and I saw my participation in my everyday existence. So the question can be applied to just about anything, your job, your work ethic, your finances, your relationships. But mine specifically was about my household. And there's a reason I asked this. But what I asked was, how much am I putting into this household versus how much am I taking out of it? And the reason I asked it was out of a semblance or a search for balance. And let me give you an example of why I was thinking about those things. So in my area of the country, it's very much kind of a 1940s, 1950s living setup where most of the people I know have one person working and one person who takes care of the house. It's a partnership in the truest sense of the word. So the partnership aspect is, okay, I'll bring home the money and I'll do blah, blah, blah. And you take care of the house because that's like a full-time job on its own. And in the 40s and 50s, the reason that was so commonplace, besides rampant sexism, was because if you made, let's say, fried chicken in, say, the 1930s, step 2 was getting the feathers off of the chicken. So preparing a meal was a process that took half a day. You didn't really have air conditioning, or at least it wasn't super common in, say, the 40s and 50s. So your windows were open at the same time that farmers were doing their things, which meant that your house was full of dirt and dust and filth. And so that took all day just to maintain. Doing laundry meant using muscles in your arms. So anyway, we won't go down the whole list of things that you had to do to maintain a house, but it was a huge deal, and one person couldn't do it. You needed a partner to either take care of the house or to bring in the money, and then the other person filled in the other role. So a lot of people still do that in my area, and when that happens, there's a weird psychological thing that overrides the moneymaker's brain, in which they're gone for, say, 8 to 10 hours of the day, and when they come home, they only see the end result of what you've been doing. So they compare your day to their day, and they just automatically assume that you have a cushy life where you get to stay home while they're forced to go out and exhaust themselves and work themselves into an oblivion. And they don't see what you're actually doing while they're gone. So then they start taking offense to it. And it's I'd love to be here sitting on my butt all day watching soap operas. Are those even still a thing? I don't know. Watching TV or TikTok and not having to worry about a thing. It's a very selfish, childish frame of mind, but I understand how people get into that because it's a out of sight, out of mind sort of deal. And if you were to change places for a day, they may or may not see how difficult that is. So in other words, the person who's bringing in the money likely wouldn't see the difficulty of taking care of and maintaining a household unless they did it for say a month or more. So they can truly see what it's like to do it every day and to have people count on you for all the things that you do in a household. It's the source of a lot of arguments among married couples, at least in my area of the country. So what I did was I asked myself that question: what am I putting into this household versus what am I taking from it? And if my answer was, well, I'm bringing in the money, well, how do you bring in the money? Well, I work, let's say 12 hours a day, and say I'm dealing with rude customers or rude people, and there's problems that go on the day that kind of break your brain, and you get home and you're exhausted and you don't have the physical energy to do even one more thing, but then that's where your contribution ends, is it's all outside the house. And then what am I taking out of it? Well, financially, I'm taking out this much money from my hobbies. I'm taking out the products of my wife's efforts in the house. For instance, say I'm having a clean house and I've got my meals cooked for me and she does all the shopping and she does the dishes, and you just add up all those things. If what I'm taking out of the household is more than I'm putting in, then there's something off balance. And it's the same thing with my wife. If what she's taking out of the household is more than she's putting into it, then we have a deficit of energy or money or effort. And at that point, something has to change. Outside of those efforts are other factors that you have to take into effect whenever you're having these kind of mental discussions with yourself. Is there anything that prevents one of you from doing your job, from doing your part of the partnership? So, for instance, ADHD, physical disabilities, depression, anxiety. Like, you have to factor those in. It's part of your currency for the effort that you're putting in. When you factor all those things together, it's going to give you kind of a different perspective in the problems that one or both of you may have in that relationship when making your household run smoothly. So here's the thing that I did after asking myself that question. I mentally started adding up the hours that it takes to do any given task in a job or maintaining the household. So how long does it take to cook a meal? How long does it take to take the trash out and to clean up? How long does it take to grocery shop? And then doing the same thing with my job. How long does it take to train an employee, to clean a house, to edit these videos, to record and come up with content? And once you start doing the math on a lot of that stuff, you're going to find that one of the two people in the relationship likely doesn't have a good grasp on what the other person puts in. And whenever you find yourself having problems with a spouse over this issue, I think that in many cases, either one person isn't pulling their weight or one person is gravely exaggerating how much of a non-effort the other person is putting in. So in other words, in their mind, they're thinking this person has a cushy life. They're not doing anything. They're sitting home and watching TikTok, and they only have to work like an hour or two a day to make meals and to do whatever. It causes argument, and that argument is based around a lack of understanding and a lack of empathy towards something that you can't see on a day-to-day basis. So a good solution to that problem is very cold and very clinical. It's literally sitting down with pen and paper with your significant other and saying, let's list the things that we do in a day and assign a time value to them. You can even assign an effort value to them if you want. But if you start listing out the things that you do on a day-to-day basis for, say, a week or a month, and you start to see on paper a significant difference between what one person is doing and what another person is doing, then it's time to compromise and say, we need to find a balance so that one person isn't working themselves into an early grave and the other person isn't taking advantage of that work. Because nobody outside of just straight up psychopaths is on purpose taking advantage of the other person in their life. A lot of the times it's just a lack of information and a lack of sight. So in my case, I clean houses all day, or I have employees who do it, and then I maintain our business, and then YouTube and TikTok are a part of that business. So every second that I'm not working, I'm either doing analytics, or I'm obsessing over content, or I'm recording or editing or uploading or banning people who are being children. But there are other things that I can help out with. So if I've got a gap where I'm not really relaxing and my brain won't let me relax, I might as well be doing something to help out the household. My wife hates laundry, so I do laundry. It's easy for me to do because our laundry room is right next to our bedroom, and I can just sit there and relax and let my brain go soft while I'm poring over analytics or just relaxing with TikTok videos. Then I get up once every 30 to 40 minutes, change the laundry, fold the clothes, put the next load in, and then just go right back to what I'm doing. It takes that off of her plate, and in exchange, I hate dishes, so she'll take care of that, and she'll take care of dinner and the shopping, which I hate doing too. But there's a balance in what we do where each of our efforts is designed to take stress off of the other person. Now, the reason that I'm talking so much about this is because there will come a point where one of you slacks, and may slack heavily, and may even get to the point to where you're not doing hardly anything at all. It's not just up to that person to call that out and to try to fix the problem. The other person, meaning you, if your partner's the one who's slacking, has to be empathetic and aware that something else is going on there. And it's usually stress, and it's usually anxiety. And so you need to be aware that just like you have days off in your job, that person needs days off in the household. And so, for instance, my wife does a lot of things for me in the household. She's a stay-at-home wife. She does a lot of the t-shirts that we've put online, which, by the way, I'll link those in the bio. We do sell t-shirts and coffee mugs and all that. Shameless plug, suck it. But she does need days off from the household. So this week, she's at a music festival, and I'm taking care of the house. And there are days where she's going to have to say, look, I'm exhausted. My stress levels are at an all-time high. I need to not cook tonight. You're going to have to find your own dinner. And that's fine. If the other person's getting angry about that because they're still saying, look, all you have to do in here is this, this, and this while I'm out busting my butt at work and blah, blah, blah. That's a person who's typically bad at empathy. And that's when the person needs to step back and take a very hard look at what the other person's doing and imagine themselves having to work 7 days with no break, with no day off, and with everyone around them not appreciating what they actually do. Now, given I know those people exist, I know a lot of them who work 2 jobs, so they literally work 7 days a week, and they literally work around bosses who don't appreciate what they do. They need to be able to apply that same level of empathy that they have toward themselves in that situation, toward the person and their life. All that being said, all that rambling for however long it's been, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or whatever, 8,000 minutes is what it's been. When my wife goes on a mini vacation to a music festival, or like I send her to New York or Minneapolis or whatever once or twice a year for like a full week, I have the house to myself and I need that break. However, my break in collaboration with my autism means that my favorite thing to do, my hobby, is to make YouTube videos and to make the house look different and clean and crazy pretty. I love to get up after I've sat on the couch for like an hour and made myself good and bored. I love to get up and turn on a video camera, and for myself, not for the benefit of the household, though it does have that side effect. I just like to clean like crazy. I like to see my wife's expression when she comes back and sees the house in pristine order. I love to see the pets walking around and sniffing everything when there's no clothes on the floor and all the carpets are freshly vacuumed and they have space. That's my thing that I do for myself. Now, I understand that most people, that's not what they do for themselves. That's work. I get it. But you personally need 3 or 4 days or a week to do something for you. And you need to make your significant other, if you have one, understand that not only do you need this, but they need a few days for themselves to do whatever they want, a thing that makes them happy, a thing that's fun, and a thing that clears their brain of that day-to-day stress. Now, it doesn't mean you've got to drop $5,000 on a vacation, but it does mean that if you've got a hobby, if you game, if you just watch TV and movies, if you like to go fishing, do that thing and not be expected to get up and help other people do their stuff. On Father's Day, my gift every year is basically, it boils down to leave me alone. It means I'm not doing any cleaning. I'm not handing you the remote. I'm not getting up to get food. I'm doing nothing all day, and I'm not helping anyone else out with their thing. It's the same thing on my birthday. I don't want any gifts. I just want to do nothing for a full day. Or if my birthday falls on a weekend, I want the whole weekend to do whatever I want. That's the way that I reboot my brain into safe mode. And it's the thing that saves my sanity. Now, when you're figuring out who gets to do what, who gets to take their breaks and when and where, and is it both of you that are going to do it? Are you going together? Do you need time alone? You do have to be honest about this. Are you pulling your weight? Are you doing your half of the partnership? Again, not just financially and not just with effort, but there's all kinds of facets to your relationship, to your effort in everyday life. Are you pulling your weight? Because if you're not, then you're going to have to make a change on your end. You're going to have to add something or take something off of the other person's plate or put in more effort toward creating a balance, because that balance is really, really important to maintaining a healthy, happy household. So if you do pull out pen and paper and you do start writing down times of, it takes me this much time to make dinner or whatever, don't pad the numbers, because if both of you are honest about the amount of time and effort that you're putting into things and there's still an imbalance there, it's not going to make the relationship or the partnership any stronger if the imbalance was created artificially. It's almost impossible to respect what another person is doing unless you can see it or do it or have the information available to truly understand how much effort they're putting in. So let's confront the elephant in the room, which is frustration. I'm human. I can get frustrated and I can even get angry sometimes when I look around the house and it's not in order, because that is part of my wife's partnership. I'll look around and see the piles that often come with ADHD, and I'll see those as piles of garbage. However, her hobby is music festivals, and she volunteers with helping create them, manage them, organize them. She goes and runs merchandise, and she has a lot of notes and a lot of notepads and pens and pieces of paper everywhere, and she knows exactly where those things are and what they mean and what they're for. However, when I see the pile, my instinct is, why are you just throwing crap on the floor? And it gets to me after a while. Those things cause me stress, and I just want those piles to be gone. However, if I start moving stuff, it'll cause her anxiety and stress, because now I'm moving the things that she's using and I'm placing them in places where now she doesn't know where things are. So we've learned to kind of mentally compromise where I'll take her piles and stack them up in an orderly way to where they're not just kind of all piled in together, but at least they're stacked. Now, the whole thing with my frustration is that I have to remind myself that this is my wife's hobby, and you have to have hobbies. You have to have some form of entertainment in your life, no matter how little money you make, no matter how much money you make, no matter how much effort you're putting into your half of the partnership. You have to have a hobby and some form of entertainment, and this is hers. The child part of my brain wants to say, well, none of this is benefiting the household. She could easily get up and do this and this and this. However, that is, I say the child part of my brain because this is a childlike form of thinking. It's a lack of empathy and a lack of using your own logic, which is these hobbies keep her brain fresh and keep her stress levels and anxiety down. When her stress levels and anxiety are down, that directly benefits the household because when she does jump back into her part of the partnership, she's doing it without giving herself a nervous breakdown or sending herself into depression or getting overwhelmed or burnt out. Everybody has to do that. And you have to be able to recognize when your partner needs that. And sometimes you do have to create an imbalance on your end where you're taking a large load off of their shoulders so that their brain can reset. As long as you know that you have to give yourself that too. And your partner needs to understand that sometimes no matter how much or how little you're doing in that household, occasionally your brain needs to be reset. And when that happens, they have to be able to take that weight off of your shoulders. It takes a lot of practice, empathy. Some people may have it naturally, and that's awesome. But a lot of people have to train their brains to be empathetic by constantly reminding themselves that the world isn't out to get them. Their partner isn't purposely trying to take advantage of you unless they're a psychopath, in which case you may need to reevaluate your relationship. Don't be dating psychopaths, man. It's freaky. It's weird. But very few people who are quote unquote normal will just say, screw it. The other person will clean it up. The other person will make the money. The other person's here to cater to me. There are very few people that I've met that actually genuinely think that. And the people who do think that aren't ready for a relationship to begin with. All that being said, this video is me doing something for me. It would seem to most normal people that I am doing all this for everyone else in my house, but I'm not. This is my hobby. This is my music festival. This is my volunteer work. And even though I may get a little bit frustrated while I'm doing it and thinking that I could use the additional help, being able to catch myself in the middle of that frustration is very beneficial to me because it teaches me to be more empathetic. It teaches me how to stop those intrusive thoughts and how to put myself in somebody else's position and say, okay, I understand it. Even if they're in the wrong, understanding why they're in the wrong without assigning blame is incredibly helpful to both them and, more importantly in this situation, to you as a person to become a better, more empathetic, reasonable human. I hope this wasn't too boring. It's just some stuff that I wanted to kind of get off my chest and sort of a thought that's been invading my big old stupid brain face for like weeks. If you didn't know, we have a membership area where I post an additional video and some extra posts throughout the week that only members get to see. If you can't afford $4.99 a month, please don't become a member. This is only extra stuff for people who want to show extra support for the channel, and it's just a fun little goofy thing that I do. Also, we do have a merchandise shop. I will link both of those things in the bio, the join button and the merchandise shop, where you can get t-shirts and mugs and stickers, and I may even put Jason for sale on there at some point. If you don't know who Jason is, you need to watch more videos, man. You're behind. You're behind, dude. Anyway, members, I will see you on Wednesday. Everybody else, I'll see you next weekend. Later.